Hi guys, I'm just another guy named James, and today I'm going to be talking about the next set of West Coast Avengers comics. Now, throughout this set, you're going to see a lot of kind of familiar faces and characters and things like that. But I am going to give you a brief recap on kind of what happened last time and some of the character traits that you're going to need to know for each of these characters. So last time we checked in with the West Coast Avengers, they had just had their big grudge match against the Grim Reaper and Ultron, and they won the day. They beat the bad guys, but they're still looking for a sixth member of their team because by the Avengers bylaws they're allowed to have up a maximum of 6 members, at least for now. And yeah, so Hawkeye's kind of concerned about getting that. The West Coast Avengers team right now is Hawkeye, Mockingbird, Iron Man, Tigra, and Wonder Man. So Tigra's kind of dealing with this struggle of her losing her identity and not being all that good. She's definitely one of the less powerful, less skilled members of the West Coast Avengers right now. So she's kind of struggling with a lot of those things around her identity, especially after in the last story she kind of did not fare very well in any of the fights that she got into. So that's kind of what's going on with Tigra. Wonder Man is finally starting to get over his various issues around death and dying and guilt and the guilt associated with the various crimes he's committed in his past. Hawkeye's really just concerned about getting that 6th member. Iron Man's kind of just there. Mockingbird, same thing. Kind of just there. She's Hawkeye's wife, but other than that, not much going on there. And yeah, this set of issues are drawn by Al Milgrom and written by Steve Englehart. And it's a really interesting set of stories because you get a lot of Marvel Universe in this set of stories, which I actually attribute to the editor of the comic at the time, Mark Gruenwald. And if that name kind of sounds familiar, he was a well-known editor for Marvel of the 80s. He also had a long, legendary run writing Captain America, along with several other comics, but Captain America is probably his biggest one. And yeah, so there's a lot of just general Marvel Universe stuff going on throughout these comics. And I think it's a really interesting set of stories. And we get to see, and I think it's also one of the clearest times in Marvel where we see a comic suffer from editorial mandate. And you'll see that right at the very end. I'll touch into that because it wouldn't make sense to talk about it first. But yeah, that's really all the preamble I can think of. Like I said, Al Milgrom draws it with, I think Joe Sinnott does the inks on most of these. So the artwork's pretty, it's pretty decent. But yeah, you'll see the artwork throughout. And yeah, honestly, I think I'm ready to just hop into our story, which begins immediately after our last one, as we see Iron Man and Tigra get into an argument because Tigra's feeling sorry for herself about the big battle that they were just in. So she storms off, and to take her mind off of her pouting, Tigra finds a group of thugs and starts fighting them, trying to take them in, but she's quickly pulled off by their leader, Kraven the Hunter. The two have a brief fight, but eventually Kraven drugs Tigra and leaves her in the streets of LA. We then see the rest of the team arrive at the compound, and Hank Pym offers to work for the team and oversee the compound as a way to help out. Be with his friends, and kind of clear the air with the Avengers without having to be on the front lines. We then see Wonder Man get a call from a talk show host asking him to appear at the show, and Wonder Man agrees. Later, we see Hawkeye and Mockingbird enjoying some alone time before they decide to go after Tigra since she didn't leave in the best of spirits, and it's been a few hours, so they want to make sure she's alright. Back on the streets, we see Tigra hunting after Kraven, and thinking about how she had changed over the past few months, becoming less and less human and more feline. But her thoughts are interrupted when she runs into Kraven, and they start fighting again. And Tigra is doing much better, relying on her instincts, but she sees Hawkeye and Mockingbird flying up on her, so wanting to keep the fight solo, she throws Kraven into the woods so that she can continue the fight. But eventually Hawkeye and Mockingbird do arrive, just in the nick of time as Tigra has been temporarily paralyzed. Just long enough to knock her out, just long enough for the fight to end with Mockingbird knocking out Kraven. Hawkeye and Mockingbird then encourage Tigra, reminding her that she's part of a team, who are there to help her. Everyone then returns to the compound, and we see Hawkeye discussing the need for a sixth member of the team, before his musings are interrupted by the doorbell ringing, and we see that the Thing, who had recently left the Fantastic Four after falling out with Human Torch, has arrived at the compound so that he can fix his motorcycle. Hawkeye immediately gets on the Thing, trying to get him to join the team, which Thing refuses several times before he ends up leaving. And once Thing gets some distance from the compound, he sees a trail of fire raining down from the sky, and he's able to catch the front of it and see that the source was the unconscious body of a woman. So Thing brings her back to the compound so that she can recover, and he gives Hawkeye his contact so that he can stay in the loop as the case develops. And we then see that Tigra and Wonder Man have a quick conversation about Wonder Man's past as a criminal before Wonder Man leaves the compound. Back in the med bay, we see that the woman has woken up, and she introduces herself as Firebird. And she reveals and she explains her history, that she's Catholic, hailing from New Mexico, and only recently she got her superpowers, and she really looks up to the Avengers. She then explains that she sought out the Avengers because she had recently been attacked by a man controlling a large group of demons that also seemingly acted as his limbs. But she was no match for the Master Pandemonium, and she was knocked out of the sky, and so she decided to go to the West Coast Avengers for help. And the team gladly offers, except for Tigra, who's kind of being catty about it. We then cut to Wonder Man, who is on a talk show, and the only thing Wonder Man does on the show is admit to his crimes around embezzlement before he leaves the studio. As Wonder Man leaves, he sees the Coliseum, where he knows the Thing is practicing for an unlimited class wrestling match. When Wonder Man walks in, we see that the Thing is attacked by Master Pandemonium, because Master Pandemonium saw the Thing help Firebird. Thing and Wonder Man start fighting off Master Pandemonium, but Wonder Man also calls in the rest of the team, which ends up being a good call as Master Pandemonium separates his arm and they become demons, and they start fighting the heroes. Soon the rest of the team arrives, but the building the fight started in has been destabilized. So Wonder Man, Iron Man, and Thing, all the powerhouses, have to hold up the building, leaving Master Pandemonium to the rest of the crew. Pandemonium then unleashes a horde of demons on the Avengers, but soon the powerhouses stabilize the building, so Iron Man jumps in, charging Master Pandemonium and punching through a pre-existing hole in his chest. But this does cause Master Pandemonium to flee. The next day, we see that the Avengers are having a meeting discussing Wonder Man's public admission of his own guilt, and eventually the group goes outside for a press conference, where they all say that they are publicly backing Wonder Man, which, of course, they are. We then see Tigra and Wonder Man sneak down to the beach for a bit of romance before we cut away to Hawkeye and Mockingbird, who are having a brief argument about the way Hawkeye handled the Wonder Man situation. Because in the private meeting they had, Hawkeye was kind of jumping on his back, being like, "Hey, you can't do that. The Avengers have a reputation to uphold." We then see that the Thing and Firebird take their leave, heading back to LA. We also see that while the Thing doesn't want to join the team, Firebird does, but she hasn't been asked. We then see Tigra find Mockingbird, and she confides in her that her animal instincts are taking over more and more, seeking only after pleasures. Mockingbird agrees to help her, and she sends Tigra down to her bungalow to cool down while Mockingbird goes to the computer to do some research. But we see that Tigra gets distracted along the way, and on the way to her room in the arms of Hank Pym. Mockingbird then has a brief conversation with Hawkeye where the two make up before the rest of the team walks up, and Mockingbird proposes tracking down a lead to the ancient cat people that gave Tigra her powers. So the team heads off to Jack Russell, the werewolf by night's house, and to ask if he knows anything about the cat people. But Tigra seems much more indifferent about the situation than the last time we saw her. We then briefly cut to Firebird, who is trying to track leads to Master Pandemonium, and she's also led to the name Jack Russell. We then see the Avengers arrive at Russell's house, where they are greeted by Michael Morbius, who is attending to Russell, trying to help him fend off the werewolf outbreaks. But the werewolf breaks out and starts attacking the Avengers. And the Avengers and the werewolf are having a knockdown, drag-out fight until Firebird shows and Wonder Man is able to knock out the werewolf. We then see that the public absolutely loves Wonder Man. They appreciate his honesty. We then see the Avengers mention that they are looking for leads on the cat people. And Morbius tells them, I know everything about that. Morbius then gives the Avengers an incantation to say at a mystic mansion to travel to the cat dimension. Wonder Man then receives a call from his agent telling him that he's booked him a big blockbuster movie. So Wonder Man flies off to scout the role. Firebird is invited to stick around for the duration of the case, and before the team, minus Iron Man, who is injured fighting the werewolf, heads off to the mystic mansion. But before they leave, Hawkeye also calls up the Thing, wanting to add his strength for the adventure, and he also still wants him on the team. The Avengers then arrive at the mansion and say the incantation given to them by Morbius, which causes a cat warrior called Balkatar to appear hostilely until Tigra announces herself, which causes Balkatar to take the whole crew to the cat world. We then see Wonder Man show up to meet with the director of the movie, his agent had told him about, and we see that Wonder Man has been cast in a top-selling action movie, which serves as a big confidence booster for him. Back with the Avengers, we see Tigra have an audience with the King of the Cat People, while the rest of the team is taken to the dungeons. Before the King, Tigra asks for her humanity to be restored, explaining her origin, first operating as the cat, before a strange occult ritual turned her into Tigra, explaining how she wants to be one mind once more, not conflicted between her human soul and her animal soul. But the King wants to remove the human side of her, which makes sense, he's a cat. Which is not exactly what Tigra's looking for, but after some time talking to Balkatar, she begins to like some of her animalian instincts. And Balkatar also tells Tigra some extended history, how her mentor, the one who made Tigra the cat, was a descendant of the cat people, and how Tigra was part of that same grand legacy. The King then summons Tigra once again and tells her that he is willing to let her choose which soul she wants to keep if she kills Master Pandemonium. Just then, the Avengers come busting out of their jail cells, but Tigra stops them from taking down the King, and seemingly she does plan to kill Master Pandemonium. The cats then send the Avengers back to the mansion, and as they head back to their compound, Firebird is plagued by a strange vision of the past, to which we are, for now, given no explanation. Back at the compound, the team reunites, and after exchanging some pleasantries, Hawkeye is pulled away by Mockingbird, who advocates for Firebird to be added to the team. And Hawkeye agrees to offer her membership if the Thing refuses one more time. We then see Firebird praying for guidance before she makes a decision to do something. We then cut to Wonder Man, who's flying through LA when he takes down a group of armed robbers, again eliciting cheers from the surrounding crowds. Back at the compound, we see Thing, Tigra, and Firebird, and we see that Firebird has called in the Rangers. The Rangers are Firebird's previously pre-existing non-team that had all come together in Firebird's only other appearance to try to take down the Hulk. And Firebird has brought them all together to propose the idea of making a permanent team, kind of like a small-scale Avengers for the Southwest of America. But when she talks to Shooting Star, one of the members of the team, she feels an evil sensation coming off of her, and soon Shooting Star leads the Rangers to attack the Avengers, leading to an all-out brawl, with Hawkeye squaring off against the Knight Rider, the Thing squaring off with Texas Twister, Tiger and Red Wolf, and Mockingbird squaring up against Shooting Star. After the fight continues, Firebird realizes that Shooting Star is the cause of their demonic possession, and she takes her down, ending the fight. But the demon that is Shooting Star reveals that she works for Master Pandemonium. We then see next thing we see is Shooting Star running down an alleyway into Master Pandemonium's hideout, where she signals the Avengers to track her location. We then get filled in on some of the in-between, where we see that Mockingbird has taken Shooting Star's costume to trick Master Pandemonium and finally catch him. But when the Avengers come rushing in, Master Pandemonium teleports away with Mockingbird. Tiger then uses an occult circle to call on Balkatar to help them track down Master Pandemonium. Back with Mockingbird, we see Pandemonium explain his origin, saying that he was once a movie executive, but a car accident led to his making a deal with Mephisto, selling his soul for the return of his arm. But Mephisto took at least his arm and replaced it with that of a demon. Probably more than his arm, unclear. We then see Balkatar has found Master Pandemonium's true home, and gives that info to the Avengers, who again come busting straight to a trap that causes them to be separated, leaving Iron Man, Thing, and Wonder Man on one side of a pit, and Hawkeye, Tiger, and Firebird on the other. Despite their best efforts, they are unable to escape until Mockingbird grabs one of Pandemonium's trinket and starts whooping on them using it, allowing the rest of the team out of their rooms that they are trapped in. But they still have an army of demons to fight through. Fight they do. And eventually we see Tigress split off from Hawkeye and Firebird with Balkatar to go kill Master Pandemonium. And Mockingbird has Master Pandemonium down to right. She's whooping up on him. She has him on the ground, basically knocked out, until Tiger jumps in and knocks out Mockingbird so she can kill Master Pandemonium without any witnesses. But when Tiger knocked out Mockingbird, Mockingbird dropped the medallion that allowed Pandemonium to teleport. So Pandemonium is able to lunge for the talisman and reach it, allowing him to teleport away. We then see the rest of the team arrive on the scene, and after a quick debrief, figuring out what happened, which Mockingbird is lying to the Avengers, Tiger is lying to the Avengers this whole time. As far as the Avengers know, Tiger is just working with them, trying to catch Master Pandemonium. They don't know that she's gonna kill him. But after that brief debrief, we see Thing finally accept Hawkeye's offer to join the West Coast Avengers. But that's the end of issue 9. But in issue 10, we see that actually, psych, that never happened. That didn't happen the way we thought it did. Thing ends up not joining the West Coast Avengers for reasons that are very unclear. Probably something to do with the end of his solo comic, something that happened at the end of his solo comic. And I know he rejoins the Fantastic Four around this time as well. So it seems as if, like I said at the very beginning of the video, it looks like we're dealing with an editorial mandate. And the editorial mandate would be that all of the original Fantastic Four have to be on the team again. And it creates this really weird dichotomy when you read these issues. Because at the end of issue 9, Thing accepts the offer to join the team. Then in issue 10, the Avengers plan a press conference and the Thing goes missing. And it's just this really weird thing that happens in the comic. And the writer Steve Englehart is kind of known for not doing well working around editorial mandates. But it's just a super interesting, weird, kind of off-putting thing that happens in the West Coast Avengers comic. It kind of kills the flow. And then Firebird also ends up not joining the team. even though it seems like she should have. But she ends up not joining the team because, well, for one thing, because all their spots are filled, but for another, because she just kind of goes off on her own trying to figure out like what's going on with her powers and all that. And the Avengers basically say, "Hey, call us if you need us," but that's about it. So it's this kind of weird, odd way to end this kind of saga running around with Firebird and the Thing, where they both kind of just leave for no reason. Especially with the Thing, because he agrees to join the team, and then literally the next issue he's just gone, and we don't even see him in the next issue. He's kind of just covered in shadow the whole time. It's really odd. It's super strange. And that's kind of the thing with this whole story. It's just really odd. You have Master Pandemonium. He's this super weird villain who turns up out of nowhere. You have all this occult stuff going on with these like mystical cat people. You have Master Pandemonium, who's this like movie exec who like sold his soul to Mephisto, and like now he's possessed by all these demons, and he doesn't have his soul, and he's on this quest for something. We don't really know what or why. And it's like, all these issues of West Coast Avengers kind of just read as, You have Tigra, who apparently just needs to take a cold shower all the time. You've got all this stuff going on that's just like, what? Kind of just what and why, you know? And there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with any of it. It's just all odd. And yeah, you have Tigra kind of going all in on her like killer instincts and her other instincts. The one thing that I do really really dig about this set of stories is we finally are getting to see Wonder Man getting over all of his like psychological issues. And we've been seeing Wonder Man getting over all of this stuff for years and years and years. Roger Stern dealt with it in the West Coast Avengers limited series. David Michelini dealt with it in the Wonder Man one-shot. They dealt with it when Wonder Man first came back from the dead in the regular Avengers comic. They've been dealing with Wonder Man's psychological problems for like 10 years of real life time in Marvel Comics by now, and it's good to see that they kind of finally just got over it. Like Wonder Man's very much so confident, he's powerful, he's doing well, which is just good to see because Wonder Man's one of my favorite characters. You do have Iron Man kind of just showing up randomly and kind of just existing throughout all of these issues. Like, he's kind of just there, doesn't really do anything, doesn't really contribute much to what's going on. He's written really stiff for whatever reason, and the artwork on Iron Man and on Iron Man specifically is not very good throughout the Al Milgrom years on the comic. But yeah, overall, this is just a really odd run on West Coast Avengers. It's an odd story, odd villains. It's very Mark Gruenwald, though, to have all of these, and like I said, Mark Gruenwald's the editor, but it's very Mark Gruenwald to have all these random characters show up. You know, Kraven the Hunter, the Thing, Firebird, and all of the Rangers, who we haven't seen since literally one issue of Hulk that Mark Gruenwald just so happened to edit. And yeah, all of them, plus one-shot random appearances by Werewolf by Night and Morbius, of all people. Like, it's all these just random appearances. And reading these comics, there's all these cross-references that get made, too. It's just a really interesting time in the history of... And it's just a really interesting set of stories. Because it's kind of just odd. Like, stuff's kind of just happening. And the writing on a lot of these characters feels very stinted. Especially on Iron Man. And I noticed it with Iron Man because Iron Man's one of my favorite characters. And then I also notice it with Hawkeye, because again, he is one of my favorites. Like, his main characterization throughout this story is that he just really wants Thing to be on the team. And again, as just a footnote that happens in this story, the Avengers like term limit thing just goes away. It's just not a problem anymore. Right at the very end of the story, same issue where Thing is missing the whole time. It kind of just goes away as a problem. So it's like it's just such an odd story. I don't know. It's not bad. It's just, like I said, some of the characterization's just a little bit off. Like, Wonder Man is written pretty well. It's good to see him finally gaining that confidence. Tigra is actively going through changes. Hawkeye seems weirdly one track. Hank Pym's actually the most interesting written, I think. Because Hank Pym's at this stage where he's very much so lost, because he had been kicked out of the Avengers for various reasons regarding a story that happened in the regular Avengers comic where he betrayed the Avengers, and kind of after the Avengers had kind of put him on a like hiatus, and then so there's just a whole bunch going on with that, where Hank Pym's basically just feeling guilty, but he knows the Avengers are still his friends. So he's coming back. He's kind of getting out of disgrace, and it's a really fascinating era for that character. But yeah, I think he's actually probably the best characterized throughout these issues. But yeah, I don't know. I dig him. I like this series as a whole. But I do think that this is probably one of the weaker eras. Like here's a prime example of this. There's a whole issue that I just skipped right in the middle of this, and I don't think you could tell. It's just this like side story that's happening the whole time, where like Ultron shows up again, Wonder Man beats him, Hank Pym, Wonder Man like acts like Hank Pym's his dad, like, and Ultron acts like he's his son. It's this weird story, like most of them from the Englehart era. But again, it does Hank Pym really well, and it does Wonder Man some pretty good justice, which is good to see. The biggest things that I'm looking at, as I'm rereading this era of West Coast Avengers, the biggest thing I'm looking to see is more characterization, some actual character from Iron Man, and some actual characterization for Hawkeye and Mockingbird. Englehart's doing well so far on Tigra and Wonder Man, but at this point we're 10 issues deep into the series, and they're really the only two characters who have any notable character traits. But I don't know. That's kind of all I got going on. That's all I got to say on these issues. I would still recommend. You can find them pretty cheap in basically any dollar bin at any comic store. Overall, West Coast Avengers is just a good series. Definitely worth checking out. But yeah, that's really all I got. I would at the end of the day recommend these comics. So I think that that's all I got. So I'm just another guy named James, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.